Hello and welcome to High Point Music's Gear Reviews. I'm Lewis, and in today's episode we're going to go a little further down the rabbit hole with the Line6 HX. I'm going to show basic functionality as a pedal board, what you could use to replace all of the effects in front of you if you're still using a traditional amp or something like the Two Notes Clean. I'm running my Fender Stratocaster into the HX. We're going to come out of the effects send into the Two Notes Clean's input, and then we're going to come through the effects loop into the send and returns of the HX as well. So we're running that in the 4-cable method, which will go a little more into detail into the blog about. Basically, this allows us to have some overdrives, fuzzes, wahs before the preamp, and then our modulations, tremolos, choruses, and things like our reverbs and delays after the preamp. So we still get all the goodness of the valves in here, but with the functionality of just one particular pedal. So we'll dial in and make some noise with it. So the first thing I'd like to show you is the tuner function on the HX. It's one of the best tuners I've seen in a long time because of how much screen that it occupies. To access the tuner, all you need to do is hold this button down and start tuning. So I'm in fine tune mode, and you'll see as we get down to some strings that are out of tune like this one, you get meter movement from here all the way across the bottom of those 3 LCD screens. And of course we get the foot switches changing color as well. So when you're close, they change from that yellowy color to green. And we get the brackets in the top LCD screen as well coming into play. So I think on stage this is really useful. I tend to use a TC Electronics Polytune Mini, and while it's good, the screen is tiny. So if you're changing guitars or changing tuning on the fly at a gig, I really like this. Nice big screen. You can do 2 other modes with it. You get a strobe mode like this, which will be like the Peterson strobe tuner, where you don't want that set of 3 bars along the bottom to move at all. And to get them to center, you just tune in the opposite direction to their movement. Bring that B down a bit, up a bit. And of course there's also a coarse mode, which is basically the same as the first mode I showed you, but it doesn't have that little dial on top like this to give you that little more indication. But that's basically tuning with the Line6 HX. So as I mentioned in the intro, I'm running the Two Notes Clean's effects loop while it's active in this. The first thing I therefore want to do is add an effects loop so that I can isolate certain effects blocks between my preamp and my effects loop. Big knob to open our menu, and then we're going to dial down to our send and return block. We're still in mono, and I want to use effects loop 1 because that's how I've got the 4-cable method set up. Jump into our signal flow, and then I'm going to move that effect block here just a little further along, so I'll have my overdrives, distortions, and my delays up here. But basically that's how we get that to that point. I'm going to quickly hit save and then get into adding some effects before it. So the first thing on a pedal board is going to be an overdrive pedal. So let's throw on one of my favorite overdrives, will be the Minotaur, which is the Klon Centaur. Like so. I'm going to dial a little bit less gain out of it. I do want it to be more of an overdrive than a distortion. And that will be more than good enough. So I've got a Minotaur set up. Another pedal I tend to use a lot of is a compressor. And being that it's the point of my next point about how much functionality this pedal has, I'll do a compressor next. So we go into our dynamics, and then I just want to use the deluxe compressor, and I like to get that really attack starved sound out of the compressors. So we go in here, you can see our attack time is set to 38 milliseconds. I'm just going to dial that down to 10. Sounds like a compressed guitar. I am going to punch that ratio up a bit because I do like it a little harder. I'm going to need more level than that though, so let's jump over here. Dial that up to +9. Pull the mix just a little bit. And the release down. Like so. So that is my basic deluxe compressor setting. Again, I'm going to hit save and save again so that that's all in place. Now, one thing that I think this particular model does better than any other multi-effects I've seen is it allows you to assign certain foot switches to the same function. So what I would like to do is run either my compressor or the Minotaur, but I just want to turn that on and off with one press of the button. So in order to do that, we go into our menu, we pick our signal flow, and then you can see we've got our effects here. So when the Minotaur is selected, I can move it like so. I'm going to move it second from the front, and I'm going to use the knob 3, which changes which switch is relevant to the pedal, to set that to foot switch 4. I'm then going to scroll up here to our deluxe compressor. I'm going to move it to be the very first pedal in my chain, and then I'm going to use the third knob here to also set it to foot switch 4. And so now I've got compression and overdrive. When I touch that there, you can see a little bit of the menu going on. And a deluxe compressor. Like so. Minotaur, compressor. So now when I want to turn my overdrive on, it automatically turns the compressor off, which I think is a really cool feature. One you certainly can't do with single stomp boxes, unless of course they're custom made, which is going to be more than the price of this anyway. And it gives you that ability to do less work on stage so you can get the job done. So I thought that was a pretty cool function. So the other big advantage of being able to do something like this is we can assign multiple effects to the one foot switch. So say that when you turn your overdrive or distortion on, your compressor turns off, you also want to turn on a graphic EQ so that you can route all of your signal through that for the ultimate level of tone shaping. You can do so. If you want to turn on a solo boost with a wah pedal, you can do that. It's all done via that signal flow path within the pedal. It makes for such simple use on stage, in the rehearsal studio, in the writing studio, in the bedroom, that I think it's definitely worth noting. So I thought that was pretty cool. You can, of course, go into this menu, even when it's running both effects. All you need to do is just touch lightly and you'll scroll between Minotaur and Deluxe Comp, and you can customize them as well. So we hit customize, we can change the color of the LED, like so. Let's make it pink. We can custom label it using this menu. So we pick, so we just say compression or comp, nice quick abbreviation, something easy to read. Comp, like so. You touch this button once and it'll scroll through the start of the different menus. So you get numbers, the space, capital letters, lowercase, and back to numbers again. I'm going to put a space in, and then I'm going to go to the end of the numbers because I want to just throw a little / in, like so. Another space, comp, and then mark that as O, capital letters, D, space to clear, and then hit OK. And now my foot switch says compression or overdrive. Nice and simple, but when you look at it, you know what's going on. You could name that per song, you could name that verse, chorus, bridge, whatever you like. It's very, very useful. So the next part of the functionality aspect of what the HX can do that I wanted to show you was the ability to control your signal path. A signal path is really important to getting the sounds you like the way you like them. Of course, you just plug them in the order that you want to use them. In previous or in less sophisticated multi-effects, you couldn't change that. Everything was preset, and while they would do a reasonably good job of picking a middle of the road kind of sound, there are definitely ways that you can reroute effects that are going to help you get the sounds you like. So on that note, I'm going to grab a reverb. So again, we punch into our menu, we go down here to our reverbs. The reverb I really liked was the Searchlights. It was pretty haunting. It sounds a bit like this. It's very haunting, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop that mix down to say 30%, which is a lot more reasonable to my ears. And now what I want to do is I want to move this so that it's not before the preamp, it's after. So again, we go into our menu, we hit Signal Flow, and we can move that effect around in the effects loop. So if we had the Clean in its overdrive mode, like so, and then we move that reverb path after. This would be really useful if you're playing shoegaze music, that kind of My Bloody Valentine sound. Reverb before distortions and before fuzzes is a really great way to get these huge swell sounds. So you would definitely want to have your reverb before your effects loop, or say before your overdrive, by moving the block down here. I'm a little more traditional, being a bit more of a rock guitarist. I'm going to want to have my reverb right at the very end of the chain, which is now where it is. And all you need to do is hit home and save. And now when we look at our signal flow, we've got our compressor, our Minotaur, and then the distribution of the effects loop. Our clean sits in there and the reverb after. So we can go from our valve sound out of the clean to our clean. And no matter which channel we're using on our clean or on your amp that you're gigging with, the reverb is going to be in the effects loop after your preamp, so you still get all the great overdrive sounds from your amp with all the functionality of using one pedal, not two or three. Another one of my favorite patches that I've come across in the HX is its rotating speaker sounds. So I'm going to show you how to set up a rotating speaker and how to assign an expression pedal to the speed so that you can ramp between the two different settings, just like on a real Leslie cab. So we press the foot switch and we go into our big knob. We scroll down to our modulation menu. The Leslie cabs are a stereo effect. However, because I'm only running this pedal in mono, it will automatically mono them. And then we scroll down and down and down and down until we get to our two rotary cabs. Now, this is what the 122 sounds like, just at preset value. Pretty lush, pretty wet, and this is what the 145 sounds like. Straight up, I like the 145 more because it has less gain. It's a little bit more subtle and a more classic sounding. Because I'm going to be using it with some overdrive, I'll definitely start with a cleaner patch. So I'm going to have a quick look at what settings we've got available. So a note on cleanliness. A lot of these effects have a headroom function, and the headroom is how much headroom or how much dynamic range is given to the wet side of the effect. So to make it as clean sounding as possible, I'm going to set my headroom to plus 12 dB. Maybe not quite that much, let's just dial that down to 9. So there's still a little bit of grit there, but that sounds pretty good. And I'm just going to pull my mix down to 75%. Just for a little bit of clarity. So everything else I think sounds pretty good, but what I want to do is work on my speed settings. So that's our fast mode, and this is our slow mode. So now I've got that effect set, my mix is set, I'm going to assign the speed to the expression pedal. So all we need to do is hold this button down and go into our controller assignments like so. And you can see straight up, because I've got that pedal selected, it's got our parameter is speed and our controller is none. So what I actually want to do is change this controller to be expression pedal 1, because that's where I have the Line 6 expression pedal connected. And to make it easy, all you need to do is hit the learn function like this, and that will be good. So home, and now when I move the expression pedal, you can see that the speed value indicator goes from 0 to full and sounds like this. Now, of course, you can tell it how quickly you want that to speed up. We scroll across like this to the ramp, and we want that ramp to be really fast. So now, go back so you can see that speed indicator where it's slow. It speeds up and it slows down. So a great way to get that modulation between two different speeds, just like a real Leslie cab, using the expression pedal. And of course, when you turn this effect off and go to something else, you could reassign the foot switch to another effect, so your expression pedal can function for any of the 9 effects that are in here. You just have to be a little bit selective about which ones you choose to use at each time, because it will control multiple parameters at once. So that is some of the basic functionality that the Line 6 HX offers. Of course, you do need a good quality expression pedal. I highly recommend the Line 6 model by Mission Engineering. We'll put a link below for you to get access to one of those. I did try it with my Boss FV500s. However, the taper of those particular pedals didn't work as well as this Line 6 model. The Boss expression pedals require a stereo cable, whereas the Line 6 is definitely a mono cable, which is a little bit easier for people to get a hold of and carry a spare guitar lead in their bag, so it's a little bit easier to deal with. You can get the ability to move your effects around your effects loop, so if you're replacing every single pedal on your pedal board and every pedal that would be in your effects loop otherwise, this 4-cable method that I've been using today works really well. It's simple enough to navigate. You do lose one effect block by having an effects loop inserted in here, but because you can have 9 and only access 6 via the foot switches at any one time, I don't think that's a big deal breaker. It'd be great if it was a standard set and you could just plug cables in to do it mechanically, but that's not how they've done it to keep it as compact as possible. So you definitely get the functionality of multiple pedals on your pedal board. You can assign an expression pedal to any single parameter of any single effect, which you can't do with just any particular stomp box. So I think that amount of versatility from such a simple set of equipment is incredible value for money. It makes life very easy for the gigging guitarist, or just the guitarist who doesn't want to get bogged down plugging a million pedals in, carrying a huge road case. It's it's a dream come true. So thank you very much for watching. If you're interested in finding out more about the Line 6 HX, you've seen something maybe that you want to hear more of, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what your suggestions and questions might be. Of course, you can head over to the blog where I'll talk a little bit more about the finer points of setting some of those things up. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe. We do appreciate the feedback. We'll have a link below to pick yourself up your very own Line 6 HX as well, so don't forget to follow along to that if this has caught your eye and tickled your fancy. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.